Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Um, this company that Ramp Metals that I want to talk about today with their management just burst onto the scene not too long ago with a what you can call a sort of an accidental discovery of very high grade gold. Uh, the accident part of it was they were looking for nickel and they found gold. And, I've seen that happen many times in my career, and it often is a very good situation. So I'm going to talk to Jordan Black and Garrett Smith today. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for
Thanks.
having us on again.
Okay, well, why don't we start at the accidental part of it, Garrett? Tell us how you came across this high grade gold discovery.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, it was completely by accident. It took us completely by surprise. We had generated targets based off of geophysics. We flew our mag and EM over our property and delineated these classic, these textbook sulfide targets, if you will, where we were getting, a discrete mag high associated with these, discrete underlying conductors. So that's what we were out there testing. We picked, our two best ones. We had, I think, 4 to 5 on the property. So we figured we'd go out and test our two best ones. And yeah, the discovery, like I said, just happened completely by accident. So over at the Ranger target, we were targeting a conductive anomaly that appeared to be in the nose of a fold. And so, it appeared that it was right at 50 meters. And then just the way the hole was designed, it appeared that if we pierce this at 50 meters, we could keep punching and we might be able to hit the limb of it as it came down,
So there
around
was
three.
two anomalies, if I got it right. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can share my screen here just 1 second and
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Another thing that you guys did, and it really goes to show the importance of, doing good exploration work, is that you did whole rock analysis, and that because initially when I looked at the drill core, I thought, wow, they're getting that grade out of that core, and you might not have assayed it. A lot of companies wouldn't even have assayed that. But the secondary follow-up on some of the core, when you guys got a chance to look at it under the microscope and see the visible gold, and there was a lot more quartz that was visible as well, then it started to make a lot of sense to me as to why you hit such high grade gold. But that doing that whole rock analysis or that whole core analysis was a stroke of genius, guys.
I wouldn't say genius by any means. I think it's just standard procedure for me anyway, especially when we're exploring in a new area. You never know what you're gonna get. As you said, we didn't do whole rock analysis, but we analyzed the entire core. So,
Yes, sorry.
we focused on for areas that we saw, those textbook sulfides that we were chasing after, where we got lots of those sulfides. We would do, multi-element analysis, base metals, everything like that. But for the rest of the core, we sampled top to bottom for gold at the bare minimum, and then also PGEs in areas as well. Just because, as you said, this can be, quite invisible, to see. So for us, it was, the rock package that this was found in was not a rock package we were interested in. As Jordan likes to say, when we first looked at it, I described it as, 170 meters of countertop that I didn't want to see. But just covering
But
our
there
base.
was some quartz. Oh, by the way, Garrett, gave you the ability to share your screen,
Oh,
but
thank
there
you.
was some quartz mixed in there.
There's
And
a
then,
lot of quartz. When we first looked at it, I was like, oh, it's just standard, diorite type stuff. Because that's just what it looked like. We didn't spend a lot of time on it whatsoever. It was just, meter and a half samples, kind of get it off my table because it's not what we're looking for. And then once we actually went back and took a look at it, Yeah, it's pretty much all quartz. Like there's very little plage in it whatsoever. So pretty much all the matrix is quartz, and then we've got some amphiboles and
Quartz
uh,
and the countertop stuff is sort of mixed.
yeah, it's all seems to be mixed together. There's not there are these granitic areas, these granitic bands. And I'll just share my screen here so we
And
can.
that mixture kind of has me really excited as well, Garrett, because you don't get to take out just the quartz and have that assayed. You're mixing up your quartz and your countertop material, and that can dilute the grade. So to get those kind of grades is quite spectacular.
Yeah, but that's what really surprised me because when we went back and looked at it, I was fully, this is just near the contact here. But this is
Yeah,
what it
but you
looks.
can start to see the quartz in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we were first looking at it, like I said, it looks like this pretty much all the way down. I'll just get to the, I guess, the good stuff, if you will. So to
I think a couple
this
back there.
is the box right here.
There it is.
So,
Up in the
when I
top
first,
left corner there, folks.
yeah, when I first looked at it here, I was fully expecting to kind of find it, in these Lucasome areas or these, more granitic type areas. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So the VG that we had in our news release actually came from this piece right here. Um, again, it just seems to be right within the host rock. There is a little band of, more quartz-rich stuff here.
Yeah,
Um, but it does just seem to be very fine, like
quartz.
just pretty much scattered throughout this stuff. So
Great.
don't really see it with your naked eye. Like I really had to go back with the scope and look through this stuff. But once you start looking at it with the scope, yeah, you do notice, a bunch of VG in this stuff, but it's just very, very fine grained
Fine
stuff. And
grain.
it doesn't
Right.
seem to, where we would typically find it in these more, I guess, quartz rich bands, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
And
it
there
seems.
again, folks, that's mixing your granite looking stuff with your quartz. And that makes these grades even more spectacular. Um, and you and I have been in the diamond exploration business, Garrett, and one of the things you do in diamond exploration is use indicator minerals to help guide you to the diamonds, and then you look at the size of the minerals, the abundance of those minerals, the fine small diamond indicator minerals, and that leads you to the good stuff. And so you're kind of following that process. You're probably still really at just the top of the system.
Yeah, we're like I said, it's gonna take a lot of holes to figure out what's going on here, especially because the mineralization is so subtle. Right now, the only things we've kind of picked out is these zones do appear to have more of a foliation to them or more strain than what we're seeing elsewhere.
Okay.
Um, so that's a possibility. We also do have this pegmatite that's right above the high grade zone. So that could have some relation to it as well. But right now it's really just a working theory because we haven't,
You got
I'm
one
not sure
hole.
this if this is the main gold host itself, or if the gold host is perhaps the next package over. We haven't seen the other side of this package yet. So, if I go right down to the bottom of the hole here, we ended still in this stuff. So we never got to see what's on the other side, which I really wanted to see. And our last intercept was, 307 to 310 here. So not the crazy grades we saw above, but still, 2 point some odd grams per ton, or 1.8, I guess, over the 3 meters.
Well, it
Um,
tells you that the system has still got gold in it.
yeah, so I'm wondering, if we're just very close to the contact on the other side, like maybe this is the footwall. We just don't have a ton of information to go off of at this stage. So it is going to be, a lot of just punching this and figuring out which way it's going. I'm assuming it's following, a regional structure, northeast, southwest striking, but we really just have to do a few more, well, not a few more, quite a few more holes to figure out what's going on here.
For the non-geo out there that's watching this, what Garrett has mentioned, there's a couple of really important things. One is that gold comes up and it needs a pathway to get to the surface. And so these regional structures are your pathway from deeper to make the fluids with the gold in it make their way up. He also mentioned folding and in the rock packages, and these are where the rocks are prepared well for that gold-bearing fluid to make their way into and disperse. And so what he's talking about there is sort of the plumbing and the host rock, and the kind of rock that's well prepared for that fluids to make its way into. But they really are, one hole into a very high grade discovery, and sort of high grade in places where you really wouldn't expect to have such spectacularly high grades. So this is a project that definitely warrants a lot more drilling and needs to be understood.
Yeah, for sure. And I just pulled up just something kind of showing the regional structure here. So this is just the first vertical derivative of the magnetics. To me, that just really shows us our structure. So this is our main eye structure.
You can definitely see the trend there.
And then, everything seems to be striking northeast, southwest. Now, where Ranger is located is kind of in this area here where my cursor is. So, it's kind of we're thinking it might be along this secondary structure that kind of peels off to the northeast here. So when we were expanding our claim package, we made sure to, cover that structure because, as you said, usually structure is very important on these things.
And it looks to have pinched there and possibly getting bigger as you go to the northeast.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of work. I look forward to
there
getting
also is a northeast or east-west structure there that seems to be coming into.
Yes, I'm not sure if that's an actual structure or if it's just from where they clipped two things together in the map. It definitely could be structure. But when we did our first round of geophysics, our tight spacing of our mag and EM, it was mainly focused on just the eye structure here. And we just happened to pick up the Ranger target, which was right on the edge of our eye structure with our survey. So we don't have really good coverage over here. It's something we definitely want to do, refly at least our mag to get, a really good picture of the structure here.
What line spacing was that geophysics done on?
This line spacing is very coarse. I'm thinking 200 to 500 meters type thing.
Oh my God!
Like it's just the government. This is just the government geophysics. It's over the entire province.
So
when
you
we flew
guys will get in there with much tighter line spacing to get that much better resolution.
Yeah, when we flew ours, it was 100-meter line spacing, and we might even do 50 meters or something, just depending on the resolution we're looking for.
Right.
I really want to get a better picture of the structure. I don't know if we'll do EM over the entire property again, over what we're missing right away. I really want to just do mag to start and have a look at the structure, because most of the times these gold targets won't be picked up by EM.
No.
You'd be looking for those high
You're looking
sulfide.
for structure.
Yeah.
But
So
there sure looks like there's some displacement there.
yeah, like I said, I wish we had a better picture. We got a little view of it in our in this thing here. I mean, you can kind of see a little piece of structure here and it bends. but
Can
we
you
just
zoom
don't
in better so we can see that a little more clearly?
yeah, just give me one sec. I'll see if I can. Um,
Oh,
so we,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, a little piece of structure here, and then it kind of bends over this way, but we just don't have the coverage there to really pick up that nice piece of structure. As you can see, this is like right on the edge of our survey. This is kind of where the survey
Looks like
ends.
there's a hinge there at the northern end with a big
Does kind of, yeah.
mag high.
So definitely something we want to follow up on. And then these were just kind of, mag highs. This mag high at the hinge here, and then, a mag high here.
Wow.
So we do want to definitely get more coverage there and really have a look at the structure because, as you said, normally on these things, structure is very, very important for
Right.
gold. So, well,
And
for
there
most,
is some evidence there that there might be a east-west structure, two parallel ones.
yeah, there may be here. But again, we're just gonna have to do some more work to figure it out.
Got it, got it. Okay. So, are you gonna get in there with some more geophysics?
So other than the mag, I really don't think so at this point. We'll start with the mag, see how that goes. When we originally planned our program, we were thinking of, doing more ground geophysics, like ground EM, some downhole, stuff like that. Uh, but that was going to be if we were targeting these, high sulfide targets.
Right.
With these, I don't think there's enough, sulfide association to pick anything up. Maybe IP, but definitely not enough to pick anything up with EM or anything along
But
those
it
lines.
might help you get more resolution on the structures.
True, yes, yes, for sure. It's in our permitting thing. So we've got, when we do get our permits here, we will have permits to, cut lines and do everything like that. I'm just not sure if we're gonna, do that right away. We're really gonna focus on mapping and then probably the mag survey right away,
Okay.
and then kind of go from there. But mapping is going to be our biggest thing. As soon as we get our permits, that's what we're going to do, boots on the ground.
So I've been asked the question that you had permits to be able to drill this hole.
Yes.
Now, the new permitting, is it for new holes? Like, why can't you go in and use this current permit to drill some more?
So our permit expired. We actually just squeezed these holes in before our last permit expired. So our last permit expired on March 31st of this year. So we
Okay.
squeezed these guys in just before that.
So it's a permit on time, not on location.
It's a permit on time. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, for our drill program, we were allotted so much time to complete it, and then we've completed that now. So this next round of permitting, I've applied for, I think it's a couple years, to get, to have access to the property. And then we'll have to apply for, an amendment so we get our drilling permit on top of that. So there is going to be, like, we want to get out there just as much as everybody else, like it's on the top of our agenda. But we just have to make sure we're doing things the right way.
I got a feeling, Garrett, you want to get on there faster than most.
I do, but I do understand the process of, the consultation process is extremely important.
Yes.
Got to make sure that we do everything correctly for the consultation and permitting process, and then we don't have any issues down the line. That this being a complete surprise to us, there is obviously going to be a lag time in our permitting here, but going forward, I don't see that being an issue because, well, we have an idea of how this is going to progress now, and we can just stay on top of things as far as, if our permit expires in 6 months, we'll just get started on the permits right away because we know what's
So the
coming.
lag is not any potential problem. You guys have already been permitted to drill in the past. It's just getting all your ducks in a row sort of thing.
Exactly. Each round of drilling or exploration, they all come with their own separate, consultation process and permitting process. So again, it's for me, it's very important that we keep everybody, all the communities up to date. You know, we do our proper meetings. I think they're going to set up a community meeting for us, you know, in the next week or two. So it's just, you know, it is a process, but if we go through it and we do it the right way and keep everybody informed, then it just goes that much smoother going forward.
Well, I'm First Nations myself, and so I know the importance of sort of the pillars to success is to deal in a respectful fashion and good consultation and inclusion. Are you guys, do you use the local First Nations where you can?
Yeah, 100%. That's always been a goal of, you know, mine and Brett, especially that, you know, we're from Saskatchewan. We want to use local help as much as possible. So we use, you know, local heli company, and then we use the First Nations band here has a business arm. It's called Kitsaki Group. And so we try to do everything we can through them because all the profits from that get returned to the community, and they also source everybody from the local communities. So for this recent Joe program here, we had four people from the local communities helping us out. They were all from the Grandmother's Bay community, which is just across the bay from where we were working. And it was great. They provided all the forestry services for us. And then Cecil was our main camp guy, you know, just our main camp hand, cutting core, things like that. And then we also used the Kitsaki group for through Athabasca Catering. We use them for all our meals. So all our cooks, food supplies, everything like that came through them. And I've since been working with them so that we can go through them for everything. So like I really want to use, you know, same heli company, same drilling company that we used for our first program. So, you know, I reached out to Athabasca Catering, and they've worked with our driller and our heli company so that we can just, you know, go through them for everything.
Perfect.
So that, you know, we support the companies that supported us from the start, but then we maximize our support for the local communities as well.
I'm really happy to hear that, Garrett. And I'm kind of a promoter of something that has a soft spot in my heart, and it's that I think a lot of the in First Nations youth are not utilized enough in the mining business because they have some inherent qualities that I think, you know, could serve a great purpose. And that is my great grandfather, he had a trap line for 50 years. And if you ever took a piece of rock to him and said, "Have you ever seen this kind of piece of rock?" If he did, he would take you right to the spot. And this is the inherent talents that I think that a lot of First Nations youth don't even know that they have, but they would be natural prospectors that could do, you know, that old fashioned geology of walking around and looking down for certain kinds of rocks. And so I believe they're underutilized. And I hope you guys can put together some kind of a program to get those youth First Nations out there using their inherent abilities that can be doing that old-fashioned geology or walking around and looking down.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, nobody knows the land better than the people who use it all the time, right? So, and that's happened on, I think, many discoveries here where as you said, you can just be like, "Hey, have you seen this rock before?" Or, you know, we're out here looking for this, and they're like, "Oh, well, I've noticed this, you know, on this part of my trap line or something." And they can, like you said, walk you right to it.
Yeah.
And I'm always about, you know, when we're hiring, you know, local camp hands or anything like that, I always ask for somebody, you know, if they have an interest in geology, that's great because I love talking shop with people. Like I'll sit there and talk somebody's ear off all day if they want to learn about rocks. So, you know, the more people we can educate and get into, you know, the prospecting and, you know, exploration side of things, I think the more deposits will be found in the end.
Yeah, and so you guys are sort of at that stage where that kind of work can pay huge dividends.
Yeah, well, especially because I mean, there's been literally no work done on the property whatsoever. You know, we flew the geophysics, we pretty much picked our targets straight from geophysics, and then we went out there and cut the pads and, you know, did a bit of sampling and stuff. But we had pretty much already decided we were drilling them just off of geophysics. So there's still a ton of work that needs to be done out there as far as, you know, mapping, sampling, just getting boots on the ground and having a look around to see what's there.
You know, another thing you put out, and it kind of didn't get the kind of attention that gets me interested because, you know, big systems, geological systems of any kind, they always leave a big footprint. And sometimes it's that footprint that is really important. It may not get the market's attention, certainly gets my attention. And you guys got sniffs of gold quite a distance from the discovery. And this suggests to me the potential that there is a powerful system there that is not well understood yet, and rightfully so, because you're only a couple holes into this thing.
And yeah, that's kind of what we were trying to get across in our last news release, right? Was that even though we didn't get those eye-popping grades over at the rogue holes, the rogue target was on a completely different structure. You know, it was within the eye structure, completely different rock types. And for us to be, as I said, we didn't get those eye-popping grades, but you know, in Rogue One, we got, you know, a meter and a half of a gram per ton, meter and a half of, you know, 0.8, another meter and a half of 0.8, and then a bunch of sniffs all the way down. And we got, you know, sniffs in the other holes as well. And I don't by any means think, you know, that this is all one big linked zone where we're going to get 3 kilometers across trend, you know, of gold mineralization. But I think, like you were saying, it does speak to the potential for the region. You know, if you're finding, you know, over a gram per ton gold on multiple structures, you know, in multiple different settings, I just think it speaks to the potential for there to be a very robust system in the area.
Right, right. And another important thing is that in a very high grade system, you could be a meter, 2 meters from, you know, what is a sniff to something very high grade.
Oh, exactly. And that's always one thing I did want to caution, you know, people about our our future drill holes, things like that, is that I fully expect there to be, you know, very high grade shoots and then, you know, lower grade stuff. It's not all, you can't always expect to be, you know, a mine at 73 grams per ton average. So, you know, that just doesn't happen.
Doesn't
So yeah, I fully expect there to be, you know, because normally the way gold forms is you'll get these high grade, you know, shoots, and then you'll get, you know, lower grade or not much in between. So I'm fully expecting to see that. And we'll just have to see, you know, how big it turns out to be.
Well, another thing I think you would want to be that people should pay attention to is the transition into the right kind of rocks. Not that these aren't the right kind of, but more juicy looking or more sexy looking rocks. And plus also that it transitions into or out of sporadic, fine grained visible gold into more abundant fine grained gold, and then hopefully into coarse grained gold and abundant coarse grained gold.
Yeah, and as you said, I'm sure we'll see that as we try to figure this thing out. I really want to see what's on the other side of this, you know, of the diorite, because right now we only have, you know, the said package above it basically, and then we ended in this stuff. So I think a big key to the puzzle is going to be, you know, what's on the other side of it, or what's this next structure that we're hitting, things like that.
Right,
So.
right, right. So you guys are really excited about getting back in there with some new drill holes.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like I said, it's it's going to be I think it's going to be a decently um, difficult program as far as targeting goes. just because the mineralization isn't, super noticeable, visually, it's not very distinct. So it is going to be, I think we're going to have, a reasonably difficult time targeting it until we figure it out. But it's going to be fun for sure.
And
It's just a big puzzle.
you're learning as you look at that core more closely with microscopes.
Yeah, the more time you spend looking at it, the more things you notice. When we first noticed it, or when we were first looking at it, it was, why does this grade versus what doesn't? And then we started noticing, well, these seem to have more strain, in these zones versus the other zones. So it's just little clues like that, that the more you look at things, the more you'll pick up. You may start to notice, as you said, there may be an accessory mineral or something that you notice within that zone. Or when we do send stuff for the whole rock geochem, because that's the plan now, if we can pull out some sort of geochemical difference between the zones.
Well, the strain and the structures will start to, I think, lead you in the right direction.
For sure, yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think we're pretty safe to say that it's probably going to be, striking northeast, southwest along that regional structure. But it's going to take a lot of drill
Which
holes.
side of it is the most juicy is an answer as well.
Yeah. Like, is it in the hanging walls, in the footwall?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. You could be just at the top of it and significantly distal to the actual guts of the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we just so many unknowns at this stage. So,
Well, the one thing we do know is there's very high grade gold in that system.
that's right. Yeah. So, I would expect that, we can't guarantee that we're going to find more by any means, right? But if we just look at things statistically, you know, the odds of you hitting your best hole on the first, if it's a blind discovery, are quite rare. Normally, when you get into a gold system, you really have to figure out how everything, where the high grade stuff is before you can dial in those really high grade holes. So to hit it, your first blind hole, I think, it really, just looking at statistically, there should be more high grade around. But we're gonna have to do more holes.
It's extremely rare. That
Yeah,
just doesn't. I've been at exploration for 30 years, and the amount of times that happens, I can count on my hand.
yeah. I'm fully expecting more. We just can't say anything until we get out there and see.
Yeah, of course, Garrett. You have to be the hedging geologist. That's your job.
That's right. Keep everybody's hopes in check. Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan, I pull you in now. I hope maybe we can get off the. Yeah, there we go. Jordan, so you did a good financing there.
Yeah, look, we couldn't be more pleased as my last interviews and a few that we did. We're always looking for the right strategic partners. I think what we did really well at Ramp, other than getting lucky with the gold, was creating a good share structure.
Right.
We still own 55% of the company, management and directors. Garrett and Brett, our two geos, are the two largest shareholders, or one of the two largest, and I wanted to
Excellent.
keep it that way, right? And I think obviously we were comfortable bringing in Eric, and I guess a big shout out too to Earth Labs and the old Gold Spot team I used to work with. They were the ones who made the introduction and kind of made that happen. So I think we got a really good financing here, and just can't wait to get those permits and get back out there.
And you guys, you know, it not only is it rare to hit that kind of grade in a blind target on your first hole, you also are a brand new company as a publicly traded company, and you've been able to you don't have very much stock out.
Yeah, like our biggest thing was, okay, we're going to raise money for the RTO or the IPO, whatever you'd want to call it, and get the drills turning right away. And that was always our thing. Even when we raised our first seed round 2 years ago, that money was used for the geophysics and TDAM. So we always wanted to be the company like first out there. and never exploring old properties. We wanted to go out and do our own thing. And that's why there's only 4 holes here. And like Garrett mentioned, the first time we actually sampled the rock was when we were cutting the drill pads. So we did things very unconventional, but I think exploration is missing that these days. Like it's missing the old
Totally.
Noranda days, right? Where they had billion-dollar exploration companies, and you just don't see true exploration as much anymore.
Yeah, grassroots discoveries are super rare.
Yeah, and in a market like ours, where the TSX is struggling, or the TSXV is struggling to catch a bid, it's the new discoveries that actually bring excitement to the industry.
Especially if you got one that has the right share structure.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you saw when we made a few announcements, it was hard for people to even buy. And look, that will change over time, and people will be able to get more liquidity. But really, it's that's the importance of the tight share structure.
Well, I don't see any problem with the liquidity myself, Jordan. It might it might be institutions might have an issue with it, but a lot of times, Jordan, these days the institutions aren't really that important for an explorer. It's actually more about the retail. And getting out there and talking about your story, I think, is crucially important to attracting that retail. And retail doesn't really need millions of shares of liquidity so that they can position themselves. A guy picks up 50, 100 here, 200 there, 500,000 here, and all of a sudden, that what already starts out as a very tight share structure actually becomes even tighter. And then you don't need much volume. And if the demand is hot and not much volume, it can move like grease lightning. And so my suggestion is to do everything you can to keep this story in front of people on a constant basis. I mean, it may not sound exciting to some to talk about the pre-drilling work and the permitting work, and but I've seen in a company called Goliath Resources that they have really done a fantastic job to continuously be putting out news releases to bring their audience into the process of treasure hunting, I call it. And they say that mines are not found, they're built. I can say the same thing for building an audience. You don't just magically, and all of a sudden it comes together. You got to build your audience too. And the way to do that is to use news releases to bring them into the process of treasure hunting, because it's very dynamic and exciting. But most companies
It's
will
exciting.
put out a news release here, will put out a news release there, and they don't really bring their audience into the process of treasure hunting. And the other thing that I think a lot of small companies fall on their face in is the telling of their story. To be out there constantly telling their story, because Jordan, these days, investors are pulled in multiple directions on a constant basis, not just for investment purposes, but the whole social media pulls them all over the place. And you really have to keep pounding the story out there. And I believe it will pay big rewards for you guys to do that process.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even when we went public, we went all the call it the non-standard routes to try to get retail, YouTube, Twitter, you name it. That's what we wanted to focus on. And like you said, if anyone picks up a small amount in retail, say it's $1,000, well, what if they go and tell 10 of their friends and they also buy $1,000? Like if you look at Robinhood and the whole GameStop era back in COVID, that's really what I wanted to try to get Ramp in a position to do. Obviously, we as a mining company, we need the fundamentals to back it, but why can't Ramp have a little bit of that meme action and that treasure hunting action Like I was out with my son and he's always looking for things in the bush. He's like a true, I think he's going to
Treasure
be a
hunt.
geologist. Maybe not the engineer I am, but maybe he'll follow Garrett's footsteps and want to look for things in the bush. But I think people enjoy that. Even I was talking to my wife that about our son, how much he loves just like exploring and treasure hunting. And she's like, yeah, even when I was a kid, I liked treasure hunting. So these are I think the fun things we should bring back into the exploration business and make it
I
interesting for
don't
people.
think our exploration business is good at explaining just how dynamic and exciting poking holes in the ground looking for buried treasures is. It's awesome. My girlfriend and my stepdaughter, I live in Mexico, so there's quartz all over the place, and we go out looking at rocks, and they knew nothing about rocks, and I said, well, this is what you're looking for, and all of a sudden they're crawling up the rocks, and hey, what's this? What's this? And it's tremendously exciting. But you got to bring the audience into that excitement, and you do that through news releases, thorough news releases. Put as much detail in as you can, and also these kind of interviews that I think really help to talk about the dig deeper into the news releases and help get the story out there.
Yeah, you even gave me an idea, Alan. As Garrett mentioned, we love working with the local First Nations group, and you're saying maybe one of the old trappers might know certain types of rocks. Maybe Garrett and Brett can do a prospecting 101 with their community. I think that would be really cool. I was just thinking of that. Thank you, Alan. That was your
Hey,
stem from
and
your idea.
I'll
So.
tell you something, Jordan. If you guys want someone like me who's been in the business for 30 years and I'm First Nations, if you want me to get on a Zoom call and talk to the youth in that community and tell them, look, you guys have this in your blood. Your ancestors have been walking on this rock forever. They've been walking on this land forever. You guys just need to know what to look for and get out there and look for it. It's fun, and you guys, it's in your blood to do this. And
Yeah,
so
totally agree.
I'll
That's
make
great.
myself available, Jordan, to get on a Zoom call and promote that idea to the youth of the community. Sometimes that's all it takes, Jordan, is for somebody who that has been in the business for a long time to give them that encouragement and tell them, look, this is in your blood. Go out there, and most mines in Canada were found by old fashioned geology, walking around, looking down for certain kinds of rocks. And the First Nations youth, led by their elders, can do that tomorrow.
I think you're on to something here. I really like it.
Awesome. Well, did I forget to ask anything you want to talk about at this point in time, Jarrett? We had a great chat with Garrett, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, on my end, I think we covered a lot. It was great to get into it with Garrett. I think that more people need to learn about the rocks. So I'm glad you asked lots of questions, Alan.
Well, I call my stuff rocks and stocks for a reason. I love the rocks, and I've been very fortunate to have some extremely talented geophysicists, geochemists, and geologists to mentor me throughout my 30 years in this business. And I'll tell you, investors out there, that when it comes to exploration, it's all about the rocks. And they've got some really good guys that are doing that thorough work here. And I think that they've just touched the tip of an iceberg, and this one's going to have a great evolution to it.
We hope so. Thanks a lot, Allan.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to close it off. Just give me a minute to close things, okay?
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right, folks, there you go. As always, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors. I'm really pumped up. I think you can tell by this project, because I've seen this before where a company is looking for one thing, they find something else, and it can be very actually, almost every time it turns out to be something special when they're accidentally find something. But from the accident to, advancing it requires really smart people and doing a lot of good work. Now, what excites me additionally about this is Eric Sprott is now come into the company as a big time investor, and they have the right share structure to be able to finance this and not overly dilute the company and do the right kind of work. And it really gives me confidence that 55% of the stock is still owned by the insiders, and the geos that are doing that hard work are big shareholders as well. This has all the makings of a success story to me. I'm very excited that I've been able to cover it from the discovery hole on, and I think it's going to evolve into something very special. So do that homework, and I think you'll be well rewarded by understanding this story and following it through its evolution. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.